Good morning. Today we'll have a talk on Vivekananda's Ramakrishna. And to start, we've asked Rupa to sing the song Bolo Guru Thakur, introduction to the talk.
अनिले का সাথী তোমার।
Om Tarikam Smaramasthadekam Hajamaha Tarikam Jagat Sakshi Rupam Namamaha Sarekam Nidhanam Niralambamisham Bhavam Bodhipotam Sharanyam Rajamaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. On that alone do we meditate, that alone do we worship, to that alone, the witness of the universe, do we bow. To that one who is our sole eternal support, the self-existent Lord, the raft to safety across the ocean of this world, do we come for refuge. Om, peace, peace, peace. There's a little feedback coming. Try to keep it close. You can turn down the volume just a little. I'll talk loud. Good morning. And thank you, Rupa, for this beautiful rendition of a profound song composed by Swami Chandikananda, one of the monks of our order. And this song encapsulates something of the theme of today's talk. In fact, perhaps just to hear the song and contemplate on it is enough. The topic is Vivekananda's Ramakrishna. Or maybe it's Ramakrishna's Vivekananda. Which way it is, I'm not really sure, because the two are so intimately connected. They had such a deep, profound relation that we can't really understand. This song hints at that. The song itself is addressed to Sri Ramakrishna, and the singer asks, "O Thakur, tell me, do tell, whom have you brought with you? Whom have you brought with you? Who is it that you have brought with you? His countenance ablaze with the radiance of Brahman. Who is this prince, this lion among men? Lord of heroes," referring to Vivekananda, "Lord of heroes, boundless in might, in valor and courage, the gods' chief outshining, exalted in wisdom, foremost of renouncers. His eyes are radiant with love divine. In renunciation, a Shukadeva. In love, a Narada. Like Buddha's is his compassionate heart. In wisdom, equal to Shiva and Shankara. Why then does he throw himself at your feet? Why does he roll in the dust at your feet? Who is it who you brought with you? At his roar, the three worlds tremble. Why then does he beg for refuge in you? Charged with your grace and blessing, is it he who will bear the burden of the earth? O Thakur, tell me, do tell, who is it that you have brought with you? That's the approximate meaning, I think, of the song, as best as I could put it into English. And this mystery of Ramakrishna Vivekananda, this simple villager who couldn't speak hardly a word of English. He had a few English words in his vocabulary, and not known outside a small circle, had a small group of intimate disciples. And his disciple Vivekananda conquering the world, his message reaching to the far corners of the earth. And yet, what is Vivekananda's attitude towards Ramakrishna? That of a humble servant, always seeking refuge, always seeking that sharanagati in Ramakrishna. So who has brought whom? And whose power is it that Vivekananda manifested all over the world? So we get this glimpse of this utter surrender, this full taking of refuge in Ramakrishna. And yet we know from the account of their meeting and Vivekananda's discipleship that this surrender, this utter reverence did not come easily to Vivekananda. It did not come easily. So I'd like to spend the next 45 minutes or so recounting some incidents and some quotations of Vivekananda about Sri Ramakrishna to feed our contemplation on who is Vivekananda, who is Ramakrishna, who is Vivekananda's Ramakrishna. Most of us, if we're familiar with the literature, we know these accounts, but it's good to refresh our minds now and then. The amazing vision Sri Ramakrishna had of Vivekananda. Who is Vivekananda? Before he met Narendranath, one day he found his mind soaring into a profound samadhi where he was going up and beyond the universe, leaving even the stars behind. And his mind, as he put it, entered the realm of ideas, the subtle realm of ideas. And as his mind continued to soar, he said, I found the path lined with the ideal forms of gods and goddesses on both sides. So we find the different devas and devis are on the path of his mind, ascending along this luminous path. And then his mind reached the outer limit of the realm of devas and devis. And there was a luminous barrier, he says, which separates the sphere of relative existence from the absolute. What it means, we can only try to guess that these approaching a complete merging in the absolute Satchidananda. My mind crossed that barrier, he says, to enter the transcendental realm where there were no physical forms visible. And even the gods dare not enter there, he says. They stay far below. And the next moment, he says, I saw 7 venerable rishis, 7 sages, seated in samadhi, plunged in the deepest meditation. That's the so-called Saptarshi Mandala, the circle of 7 sages immersed in the deepest contemplation. And it occurred to him that these rishis must have surpassed not only humans, but even the gods in knowledge and holiness, in renunciation and love. And so Sri Ramakrishna says, I was lost in admiration, reflecting on their greatness, when I saw a portion of that undifferentiated luminous region. Apparently there is a luminous region, undifferentiated, that a portion of that condensed into the form of a divine child. That child came to one of the sages, tenderly clasped his neck with his lovely arms, and addressing him in a sweet voice, tried to drag his mind down from the state of samadhi. And as Sri Ramakrishna describes it, the magic touch roused the rishi from his superconscious state, and he fixed his half-opened eyes on that wonderful child. And his beaming face showed that the child was the very treasure of his heart. Then the divine child, in great joy, speaks to the sage and says, I am going down. You must come with me. The rishi remained mute. He didn't speak, but his tender look expressed his assent. As he gazed at the child, he again became immersed in samadhi. And Sri Ramakrishna says, I was surprised to see a fragment of his body and mind, then descending to earth in the form of a bright light. No sooner had I seen Narendra than I recognized him to be that sage. So what do we make of this? Of the song that we heard, of course, is referring to this vision of Sri Ramakrishna. Who is it that you have brought? It took a long time. Sri Ramakrishna had to wait a long time after this vision to finally meet Narendra. And that famous first meeting, I think most all of us know the story, how Narendra came to Dakshineshwar for the first time with a friend, meeting Sri Ramakrishna, and it was a normal gathering, And then Sri Ramakrishna called him out to the veranda and immediately starts weeping and saying, "What took you so long? I've been waiting so long for you. My ears are burning hearing the worldly talk. What took you so long?" And then suddenly his mood changes and he salutes him and he says, "I know you are Narayana, come to earth to relieve the suffering of humanity." And Narendra, young 17, 18-year-old student that he is, he's thinking, what is this guy? He's crazy. What's going on here? What do we make of this? He thought that Sri Ramakrishna was a madman or a monomaniac, as he put it. And then, of course, at the second visit, he insists that Narendra come again. So he comes again. He's drawn by seeing his purity and his renunciation. And of course, he asked, after that incident, he asked Sri Ramakrishna, "Have you seen God?" That same question he had been asking so many people. And Sri Ramakrishna answered without any hesitation, without any, "Yes, I see him more clearly than I see you in front of me. Moreover, I can show him to you." So that attracted Narendranath, but he was still doubting, who is this guy? And then the second visit he comes alone, and Sri Ramakrishna touches him. And he finds everything, the universe, himself, the room, everything kind of merging into a whirlpool, into a void. And he gets frightened. Sri Ramakrishna is putting him into samadhi, giving him samadhi immediately. And he gets frightened and says, "Wait, what are you doing? I have my parents at home." And so Sri Ramakrishna, with another touch, said, "All right, let it be for now." And he becomes normal again. How is this possible? He was completely flabbergasted. How can this man, did he hypnotize me? But I'm a strong man. I have a very strong mind. How could he hypnotize me? So he was really left wondering, what happened? So third visit, Narendranath is determined not to be hypnotized. But Sri Ramakrishna puts him into a deep trance and then asks him all kinds of questions about why he has come, how long he will be here, what his mission is, and all these questions, and corroborates what he already knew to be true, having recognized him from the previous vision. So one thing that strikes me about this is, see, if even Vivekananda has forgotten who he is when he comes here, and doesn't know what his mission is, then we need not feel so bad that we too have forgotten. We too have forgotten who we are. We have forgotten that we have come here for a reason. We have come here with a mission, as it were, and each one of us has a unique role to play in the Leela of our life, of this world, the Leela of the Lord. What is that role that we have to play? That is for us to find out, just as it was for Vivekananda to find out. Of course, Vivekananda had Ramakrishna to show him. And the next few years, it was the training of Sri Ramakrishna, so that Ramakrishna's training of Vivekananda, for him to learn who he is, who is Ramakrishna, what his mission is in life. And that training was a training based and suffused with and ending in love. Tremendous love. So much love that Vivekananda even noted that Ramakrishna used to love me so intensely that others would become jealous of me. But Narendranath, in those days, he used to kind of shrug off Ramakrishna's praise and his love, and he'd leave the room if Sri Ramakrishna started praising him too much. But he acknowledged the transforming power of that love. And later he said, Sri Ramakrishna was the only person who, ever since he met me, believed in me uniformly throughout. Even my mother and brothers did not do so. It was his unflinching trust in me and love that bound me to him forever. He alone knew how to love another. Worldly people only make a show of love for selfish ends. That time that Narendranath was facing tremendous difficulties on account of the sudden death of his father, and some people felt that probably he had lost faith in God and that he was committing immoral acts and all that. It was only Ramakrishna who didn't lose faith in Narendranath. He said, and it cannot be true. And of course, it wasn't true. But it was a struggle. As Vivekananda told Sister Nivedita, 6 years fight he had. A 6 years fight. Why? Because I would not accept Kali. Sri Ramakrishna was an idolater, worshipping Mother Kali. Narendranath was a Brahmo, worshipping the Absolute. One shouldn't bow down to images. And Nivedita asks him, now you have accepted him specially, have you not, Swami? And Swamiji replied to her, I had to. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa dedicated me to her. And you know, I believe, that she guides me in every little thing I do and just does what she likes with me. Yet I fought so long. This is that struggle, the struggle of Narendranath in his discipleship. I fought so long. I loved the man, you see, and that held me. I thought him the purest man I had ever seen and knew that he loved me as my own father and mother had not the power to do. That time, Swamiji admits, at that time, his greatness had not dawned on me. That was afterwards when I had given in. When he finally surrendered, then he started to realize Ramakrishna's greatness. At that time, I thought him simply a brain-sick baby, always seeing visions and things. I hated it. And then I had to accept her too. So that was the discipleship and a period of mutual testing. Narendranath tested Sri Ramakrishna. Small example, and we know he took a coin. Sri Ramakrishna said he couldn't touch money, he couldn't touch metal. So Narendranath hid a coin under his mattress when he went out of the room, came back down, sat on the bed. Those thin cotton mattresses probably, or it could have been a bamboo mat or something. So Sri Ramakrishna sat down on the bed and jumped up immediately as if some insect was in the bed and had stung him. And the others were searching, what happened, is there an insect? What? And they found the coin. Sri Ramakrishna was pleased. He said, yes, test your guru before accepting him. And Sri Ramakrishna also subjected Narendranath to a very severe test. After he had been coming for some time, he completely ignored him. Usually when he came, he would be so happy, showering him with love, feeding him, sitting beside him. He completely ignored him, wouldn't even look at him. For over a month, this went on. Narendranath kept coming. Finally, Sri Ramakrishna asked him, I've been ignoring you. How come? Why do you still come? I don't come. I come to see you. I love you. I come to see you. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, anyone else receiving this treatment would have left forever. So this was the test, how Sri Ramakrishna also tested Narendranath. So gradually, Narendranath began realizing, who is Sri Ramakrishna? There's a fascinating conversation related in Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, by Swami Saradananda. When Sharat Maharaj, Swami Saradananda, and his brother, his cousin, Shashi, they were talking with Narendranath in 1884 at Narendra's home, the winter of 1884. And Narendra was hinting that he understood Sri Ramakrishna to be something more than a great guru or a perfected soul. And he said, Sharat Maharaj relates, the extraordinary events, like those recorded in the biographies of the great souls, the teachers of the world, such as the holy and glorious Jesus, Chaitanya, and others, which we had read about and had been disbelieving so long, where we understood that day taking place daily in the Master's life. So they had, Sharat Maharaj had read about miraculous incidents in the lives of Jesus and Chaitanya and Krishna and Buddha and all of that, and had disbelieved them. And Narendranath is saying, see, look, these things are happening in Sri Ramakrishna's life. What kind of things? He grants devotion to those who have taken refuge in him by a touch or by untying at will the knots of their past impressions, their samskaras. And he makes them enter into ecstasy and realize divine bliss. Or he changes the course of their lives completely. into spiritual channels so that they attain realization of the divine and attain eternal blessedness. So these three things Narendranath particularly mentioned. And then they went for a walk, and Narendra sings a song on Gauranga. The song is, in English translation, Gaurarai, referring to Gauranga, Sri Chaitanya. Gaurarai distributes the wealth of love. Nitai Chand calls, come, 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 O you who long to have it. Jarfuls of love are being poured out, yet that love does not get exhausted. Shantipur is being flooded and Nadia is swept off. Nadia is swept off by the current of Gaura's love. Prem Dhan Bilai Gaurarai. It's the first line of the song. And then after singing this song, Narendranath relates this. He says, he is actually distributing love. Gaurarai is bestowing love, devotion, divine knowledge, liberation, and whatever else one may desire on whomsoever he likes. Oh, the wonderful power. Then he sits silent for a while. And then he reveals this incident. I was lying on my bed at night with the door of my room bolted from within, when he suddenly attracted me and took me, the one that lives within this body, to Dakshineshwar, giving a great deal of instruction to me and talking on various subjects. He allowed me to return. He can do anything he likes. This Gaurarai of Dakshineshwar can do anything. How amazing. We find very few revelations like this in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, that he did something which seems to our minds to be impossible, that Narendranath was in his room and somehow Sri Ramakrishna took him out of his room and out of his body and brought him in his subtle body or something to Dakshineshwar, and there gave him all kinds of instructions and then sent him back. And of course, Vivekananda did not want to publicize these kinds of things. And Sri Ramakrishna himself again and again emphasized, these are not the goal of spiritual life. These kinds of powers are a distraction. They should be shunned. And yet, when he felt the need, clearly Sri Ramakrishna could make use of these kinds of powers at will. So later on, Sister Nivedita relates that Swamiji told her, oh, what weird scenes this brings before me, the weirdest scenes of my whole life. Perfect silence, broken only by the cries of the jackals, in the darkness under the great tree at Dakshineshwar, referring to the banyan tree. Night after night, we sat there the whole night through, and he talked to me when I was a boy. And Nivedita asks, did you sit beside him or facing him, Swami? Either way, it wasn't a few days or weeks. That went on for years. And now I have a doubt. Was it in the physical body that these happened or in the subtle body? I'm not sure. We don't know. But this gives us a hint of the kind of intense training and the kind of transmittal of knowledge and wisdom that occurred in this period of discipleship, when if we just read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we understand, yes, Narendranath used to come sometimes to Dakshineshwar. But there were many long nights under the banyan tree where Sri Ramakrishna poured his knowledge and poured his blessings on the disciple. We don't know about that. So that intense faith of Vivekananda, of Narendranath to be Vivekananda, that intense devotion, that surrender came through this intense period of discipleship. And again, Narendranath was proved wrong and Sri Ramakrishna was proved right. Again and again in their arguments and their discussions and the tests. And so finally, Vivekananda could say, so you see, my devotion is the dog's devotion. I have been wrong so often, and he has always been right. And now I trust his judgment blindly. let's jump forward a little in time and examine the Swami Vivekananda's mature understanding of Sri Ramakrishna during his period of active work in the West and in India. It seems that Swami Vivekananda had a direct line of communication with Sri Ramakrishna and directly knew his protection. And of course, the most astonishing incident about that is this one. And he told a few people this incident. One of them was Alice Hansbrough of San Francisco, of South Pasadena, who accompanied Swamiji to San Francisco. And there he told her regarding the missionaries who were so against him. He was taking away their livelihood by exposing the lies they were telling about India. And he told of a dinner to which he had been invited in Detroit. For some reason, he suspected that his coffee had been poisoned after the meal, and that the coffee was served. He was debating whether or not he should drink it, when Sri Ramakrishna stepped to his side and said, "Do not drink, it is poisoned." So Sri Ramakrishna saved his life, perhaps many times, but this one we know definitely because he revealed it. Sri Ramakrishna intervened to make sure he didn't drink the poison. This was, of course, long after Sri Ramakrishna had left the body, but he appeared to him and cautioned him, "Don't drink that." And interestingly, Alice Hansbrough also relates that Swamiji always spoke of his master as Atmaram. At least in San Francisco, he would say Atmaram. That's a name which means one who rejoices in the self. Whenever there were difficulties, he would say, according to Alice Hansbrough, whenever there were difficulties, he would say, "Well, if things do not go well, we will wake up Atmaram." So that was Vivekananda. Now, when he first reached America, there was a brief period when it seems his faith wavered a little bit. There was so much new. There was new for him. There was so much that was different, and there was so much expense, and he had so many obstacles. It seems his faith wavered a bit. And then, of course, we know how everything fell into place, and people came and sheltered him, and they sent him to Chicago for the Parliament, and then, even then, when he lost the address to go to, and then Mrs. Hale found him and everything worked out, and he was a roaring success at the Parliament. So just after the Parliament, he confides in Professor John Henry Wright, who recognized him and sent him to the Parliament with a letter of introduction and all that. He was a Harvard professor. So he writes, "I am now going to be reconciled to my life here. All my life, I have been taking every circumstance as coming from him," means coming from the Lord, "and calmly adapt myself to it. At first in America, I was almost out of my water. I was afraid I would have to give up my accustomed way of being guided by the Lord and cater for myself." That means he would have to earn money and somehow cater for myself, as he puts it. And then he says, "What a horrid piece of misbelief and ingratitude was that." So this idea of giving up, that utter surrender, what a horrid piece of misbelief and ingratitude was that. "I now clearly see that he who was guiding me on the snow tops of the Himalayas and the burning plains of India is here to help me and guide me. Glory unto him in the highest. So I have calmly fallen into my old ways. Somebody or other gives me a shelter and food. Somebody or other comes to ask me to speak about him. And I know he sends them, and mine is to obey. And then he is supplying my necessities, and his will be done." So that mood of surrender to Sri Ramakrishna is fully established after a brief wavering in considering the newness of everything. He has fallen back into his accustomed utter surrender to the Lord. And he quotes the Gita, that beautiful verse, "He who rests in me and gives up all other self-assertion and struggles I carry to him whatever he needs. That's the famous verse. Ananyaschintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vaham yaham. I carry what he has and bring what he needs. This beautiful, beautiful assurance of the Lord. If we can fully depend on the Lord and surrender all worries and all concerns, and with one pointed mind rest in the divine responds and brings to us what we need and who we need and takes care of everything. So he goes on, he closes that letter with, so it is in Asia, so in Europe, so in America, so in the deserts of India, so in the rush of business in America. For is he not here also? So he is here also, of course. So he had this sense, he had this understanding that it was Sri Ramakrishna who was behind him, who is the power that is within him. And so when he was running short of ideas for talks, he would hear a voice, apparently, speaking to him, telling him what he would say tomorrow. Whose voice was that? He writes to his dear sister Mary Hale, therefore, my dear Mary, do not be frightened at whatever drops from my lips, for the power behind me is not Vivekananda, but he, the Lord, and he knows best. So while he's working in America, spreading wide the teachings of Vedanta, he's also working to establish the Ramakrishna mission in India and to gird his brother disciples to the work that is to be done. And he writes this tremendously encouraging words to the brother disciples. We shall crush the stars to atoms and unhinge the universe. Don't you know who we are? We are the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. We are the servants of Sri Ramakrishna. That powerful Sanskrit verse, there's a number of them. I just selected that one. Kurmastar kacharvanam tribhanam utpatayamo balat kim bho navijanas masman Ramakrishna dasavayam. Ramakrishna dasavayam. We are the servants of Ramakrishna. Being his servants, we can do anything. We can crush the stars to atoms. So he tells Swami Yogananda in these powerful words, we have been blessed with obtaining refuge at the feet of the Master, and we are born to carry his message to the dwellers of the three worlds. Time and again I have received in this life marks of his grace. He stands behind and gets all this work done by me. When lying helpless under a tree in an agony of hunger, when I had not even a scrap of cloth for a loincloth, when I was resolved on traveling penniless round the world, even then, help came in all ways by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. So at this point, and this is in 1897, when he's speaking directly with Yogananda. He knows the power is Ramakrishna. And also the power to digest that fame. He says, and again, when crowds jostled with one another in the streets of Chicago to have a sight of this Vivekananda, then also, just because I had his grace, I could digest without difficulty all that honor, 100th part of which would have been enough to turn mad any ordinary man. And by his will, victory followed everywhere. It's not easy to digest that kind of fame and honor. We can be sure of that. That as Roxy Blodgett said when she saw, to herself, when she saw scores of women climbing over the benches to get to Vivekananda after his maiden speech at the Parliament, and she said to herself, my lad, if you can withstand that onslaught, you are indeed a god. Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda continues, Sri Ramakrishna is not exactly what the ordinary followers have comprehended him to be. He had infinite moods. Sri Ramakrishna of Ananta Bhava, infinite moods, infinite spiritual moods and phases. Even if you might form an idea of the limits of Brahma Jnana, of the knowledge of Brahman, you could not have any idea of the unfathomable depth of his mind. Thousands of Vivekanandas may spring forth through one gracious glance of his eyes. So this is how Vivekananda looked on Sri Ramakrishna and felt, basically, he was merely an instrument in the hands of Ramakrishna, which is why he said in 1897 in Calcutta, if there has been anything achieved by me, by thought, word, or deed, if from my lips has ever fallen one word that has helped anyone in the world, I lay no claim to it. It was his. It was Ramakrishna's. But if there have been curses falling from my lips, if there has been hatred coming out of me, it is all mine and not his. All that has been weak has been mine, and all that has been life-giving, strengthening, pure, and holy has been his inspiration, his words, and he himself. It's interesting, so Vivekananda used to say, we think of him as a real jnani, no? Who, at least at first, I used to think of him as a jnani who's preaching jnana yoga, and all his lectures on Vedanta are so analytical and perfect, and yet, he says about Sri Ramakrishna was, and we think of Sri Ramakrishna the opposite. We think of him as fully devotional, always weeping with the name of God and weeping to the Divine Mother and weeping for Krishna and Shiva and any form of the divine that you can conceive of. He's weeping and he's practicing devotion and singing holy songs. So Swamiji said, he was all bhakti without, but within he was all jnana, all wisdom. And I am all jnana without, but within my heart, it is all bhakti. So it's very interesting. We have the two of them, they seem on the outside, they mirror each other. And on the outside, the one is displaying jnana and the other bhakti, and on the inside, it's reversed. Very interesting. But Vivekananda felt that really it's Ramakrishna who is everything. He told Sarah Bull, others love me personally, but they little dream that what they love me for is Ramakrishna. Many people love Vivekananda. He says, they don't know. Actually, what they love me for is Ramakrishna. Leaving him, I am only a mass of foolish, selfish emotions. I'd like to turn briefly to a letter, some excerpts of a letter, parts of which have only just recently been published, which is why it's quite interesting in the new edition of the Letters of Vivekananda. Letter to Shashi Maharaj, Swami Ramakrishnananda, and his brother disciples, by extension, written in January of 1895 from America. And he talks about Sri Ramakrishna as the avatara. He says the Ramakrishna avatara is what was mentioned in the scriptures as Kalki avatara. It's very interesting. The Bhagavata describes 10 avatars, the last one being the future. The future avatar, Kalki. And Vivekananda has the boldness to say that Kalki, which we read in the scriptures, that's Ramakrishna. Make of it what you will. This is what he writes. Perhaps this is why it wasn't published before. The order wasn't feeling bold enough to release this message. But now we are ready to read that in Vivekananda's mind, the Ramakrishna avatara was mentioned in the scriptures as Kalki avatara. The day he was born is the beginning of the Satya Yuga, that age of truth, that age sometimes called the Golden Age. Sometimes it's hard to understand, but seeing the state of the world right now, how is this the Satya Yuga? but this was Vivekananda's conviction. And just as the avatars of old had weapons to slay the Rakshasas, or they even with their bare hands they could slay the Rakshasas, like Rama and Krishna, they killed so many monsters, no? Swami Vivekananda, in this letter, he says, in this incarnation, the atheistic ideas of the materialists will be destroyed by the sword of jnana. The atheistic, so the Rakshasa being slain here is the atheistic ideas of the materialists, and they'll be destroyed by the sword of jnana. And the whole world will be unified by means of bhakti and prema, devotion and divine love. Moreover, in this incarnation, a rajoguna, that is the desire for name and fame, etc., is altogether absent. Therefore, blessed is one who accepts his teachings. It does not matter whether he takes his name or not. Whether we take the name or not, it doesn't matter. Because Swami Vivekananda often said, he's not asking anyone to believe that Sri Ramakrishna is avatar, except perhaps his brother disciples. He's convincing his brother disciples that they are the servants of Ramakrishna and that Ramakrishna is the avatar of the age. But to others, to the general public, he is not going to preach Ramakrishna as avatar. He only wants his message to spread, his teachings to spread. But he has this tremendous faith that by the advent of Sri Ramakrishna, as he puts it in this powerful letter, henceforth all sorts of distinction and discrimination have come to an end, and everyone down to the Chandal will receive prema. Even the outcast will receive that divine love. The distinction between man and woman, the rich and the poor, the scholar and the illiterate, the Brahmin and the Chandala, he has rooted out all. And of course, the bringer of harmony. He was the settler of disputes, differentiations between Hindus and Muslims, between Hindus and Christians, etc. All are now things of the past. In this Satya Yuga, the tidal wave of his divine love has unified all. Swamiji was clearly in a mood when he wrote this letter. He was in bhava, some kind of ecstasy, and the words flowing forth, because he had the boldness to write after this, as long as I live on earth, he, that is Ramakrishna, is and will be working in and through me. So long as you believe this, there is no possibility of any danger of any kind for you. Almost shocking statements in their directness, in their unequivocal declarations. Because in public, he was very reticent to speak of Sri Ramakrishna. Only twice in public did he speak on the Ramakrishna, once in Wimbledon and once in New York. But in these personal conversations, we see a different side. I'd like to talk a little bit about the shrine. The shrine at Belur Mutt, and by extension, all the shrines, all of our centers, except for one, have a shrine dedicated to Sri Ramakrishna. And afterwards, of course, when Swami Vivekananda left his body, his picture was also added in the shrine. And when Holy Mother lifts the body, her picture was also added to the shrine. So he points out in his rules for the order, that this is for the monks, the little rule book, he says, Sri Ramakrishna left no instruction for installing his image and offering worship, food, etc. to him. We have introduced these things in his honor. So he makes it very clear, that's not Ramakrishna, that's us. We decided we're going to worship him, and it was thanks mainly to Shashi Maharaj, Swami Ramakrishnananda, that we have this puja. And he goes on to say in these instructions, whether one accepts Sri Ramakrishna as God, or as an avatara, or as an ordinary guru, is of no consequence. Now, though Swami Ramakrishnananda mainly was the one who did the worship, but after he was sent to Madras, now Chennai, others would do the worship. And when Swami Vivekananda came, how would he do the worship? Very interesting. Mahapurush Maharaj relates that he would come into the shrine, take his seat, and meditate for a long time. He would plunge into deep meditation for about an hour and a half, sitting like a stone statue, meditating very deeply. Then he would bathe Sri Ramakrishna, means offer water for a bath, and then he would add the sandal paste on a whole tray of flowers and simply offer handfuls of them at Sri Ramakrishna's feet, handfuls of flowers touched with sandal paste, and then he would get up. Then he would prostrate and get up. That was how Vivekananda would worship. It was basically meditation and then offering handfuls of flowers. We do so many rituals and sprinkling water and worshiping this god and that god and all the mudras, everything. No, none of that. Meditation. And then offering the flowers. And someone else would come and make the food offering after that. Another interesting incident regarding the shrine. Swamiji was teaching some junior monks. They were having a class. The class was going on. It was going over time. And Swami Premananda was going to go perform the arati. So he comes to the young monks and said, "What are you doing? Aren't you coming for arati? Finish the class and come." And Swamiji got annoyed. He said, "Is it your idea that what I am doing here is not worship? When you ring the bell in shrine, is only that worship?" He used to chide Ramakrishna also for ringing the bell all the time. Is that worship? Is this not worship? So he scolded Baburam Maharaj, and Baburam Maharaj went and did the arati alone. And they continued their class, and he did the arati alone, and then he slunk off to the roof, feeling very upset. And then Swamiji lamented that he had been so harsh. And he went to the shrine and he struck his head on the threshold, begging forgiveness for having spoken rudely. So much so, banging his head, that blood came. And Premananda was found on the roof, and Swamiji embraced him and apologized, and they were reconciled, of course. Another incident, of course, we all know about it. Advaita Ashrama in the Himalayas at Mayavati was established under Swamiji's guidance by Mr. and Mrs. Xavier, Captain and Mrs. Xavier of England. And it's a beautiful place, as you've heard of. If you've been there, you know. And it's dedicated to Advaita, to non-duality. So Swamiji wanted that there should be one place that's dedicated solely to non-dualism, to Advaita. No worship should be performed there. But when he came in 1900, he came and he just missed by a few weeks Captain Xavier's passing away. But he came, consoled Mrs. Xavier, and was at the ashrama. But he found there was one room set up as a shrine. Sri Ramakrishna's picture was there, and they were doing a little puja. He didn't say anything at the time. That evening, at the evening meal, he chided them. Hey, what? This is supposed to be Advaita Ashrama. I see you have started a shrine. He didn't forbid them to do it, but they felt bad. So they closed this, they dismantled the shrine, and they stopped the worship. But one of the brothers was feeling very uncomfortable and wrote to Holy Mother, "See, what if we are worshiping Ramakrishna? He stopped. What is this? Is this all right? Shouldn't we be worshiping?" And Holy Mother wrote back a letter. Ramakrishna is all Advaita. You are his followers. You are Advaitins. This is perfectly correct. And Swami Vivekananda, he in Calcutta, he said, "I thought of having one center at least, where the external worship of Sri Ramakrishna would not find a place. But going there, I found that the old man had already established himself even there." Well. So this kind of affection, he had such deep affection and intimacy with Sri Ramakrishna that he could call him the old man in that way. Well, we'll close now with just a portion, a small portion of a very moving letter that Vivekananda wrote to Josephine MacLeod from Alameda in April of 1900. It's clear from both the letters he was writing at that time as well as the personal reminiscences that Swamiji was in a very high state, very high mood, very state well, first of all, he had the sense that his work is done. His message had been delivered. The Ramakrishna mission had been established, and now he was just what? Playing with the Lord. He was dancing with the mother. He was giving to his select disciples the highest teachings of Vedanta. And he writes, and he had suffered a lot physically and mentally for the suffering of his mother and for the establishing the work and all of that. And then he writes this letter. I am well, very well mentally. I feel the rest of the soul more than that of the body. The battles are lost and won. I have bundled my things and am waiting for the great deliverer. Shiva, O Shiva, carry my boat to the other shore. After all, Joe, I am only the boy who used to listen with rapt wonderment to the wonderful words of Ramakrishna under the banyan at Dakshineshwar. That is my true nature. Works and activities, doing good, etc., are all superimpositions. Now I again hear his voice, the same old voice thrilling my soul. Bonds are breaking, love dying, work becoming tasteless. The glamour is off life. Now only the voice of the Master calling. I come, Lord, I come. Let the dead bury the dead. Follow thou me. I come, my beloved Lord, I come. So we see that when he felt his work was done, he could hear again Sri Ramakrishna's voice calling him. That is, his true nature is just the boy listening with rapt wonderment to the wonderful words of Ramakrishna under the banyan of Dakshineshwar. That is his true nature. And he has bundled I have bundled my things and am waiting for the great deliverer, and quotes this first line of a beautiful Hindi bhajan. Shiva, O Shiva, carry my boat to the other shore. Ab Shiva par karo meri naya. And I've asked Madhura to sing this song. Let me read a attempt at a translation of the song. Shiva, O Shiva, carry my boat to the other shore. The crossing is perilous, the waters measureless. Even the sounding pole finds no bottom, and there is no boatman. Water stretches endlessly on every side, and upon it blows a fierce east wind. My trembling heart quakes within. To Shiva I cry in my distress. At dawn cries Devi Sahai, the composer of the song, O Father Shiva, O Mother Girija, save me.
अब शिव पार करो मोर नैया, अब शिव पार करो मोर नैया। आओ घट घट गाध जलधि, आओ घट घट गाध जलधि, बल्ली लगे ना खैया। अब शिव पार करो मोर नैया। बारी बरोबर बारी आयो है, बारी बरोबर बारी आयो है, तापर अति पुरबैया। बारी बरोबर वारी भयो है, तापर अति पुरबैया। थर थर कंपत हिया मेरो, थर थर कंपत हिया मेरो, शिव की देत दुहैया। अब शिव पार करो मोर नैया, अब शिव पार। देवी सहाय प्रभात पुकारत, देवी देवी सहाय, सहाय प्रभात पुकार। शिव पितु गेरे जा मैया, अब शिव पार करो मोर नैया। आओ घट घट गाध जलधि, घट घट गाध जलधि, बल्ली लगे ना खैया। अब शिव पार करो मोर नैया, अब शिव पार करो मोर नैया, अब शिव पार करो मोर नैया।
pratatve sadalino Ramakrishna samagya yo dharma sthapanarto viresham tam navamyaham. To him who was ever absorbed in the supreme truth, but at the command of Sri Ramakrishna came down to establish dharma here, to that great Vireshwara, that Lord of heroes, the Swami Vivekananda, do we bow down in adoration. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna